The astrology of this weekend, Halloween weekend, is especially interesting. This is a moment in time that helps us remember that astrology tells a story. The present moment can't exist without the future and the past. Everything is a part of cycles. Here at the end of October 2025 and the beginning of November, we're working with several transits that are really significantly part of larger cycles. For example, we have a T square with Chiron, Jupiter, and Venus. Different planets have moved through here, and with Venus here now, this T square is activated, but we've been working with this for weeks. Also, we have this grand water trine configuration right now involving Mars, but being held by Saturn and Jupiter in water signs. Mercury's already passed over this, and Mercury is about to go retrograde, so Mercury will cross this point 3 more times. We'll be working with these grand water trines very deeply for a while. And they are emotional, compassionate, intuitive, and we'll be working with them into December, as well as this Mercury retrograde cycle, which will also go through November. And then Mercury will be direct through December over those places where it was retrograde. So it's an exciting weekend astrologically, and it doesn't exist in isolation, to be sure. There's a lot to talk about today. So let's go ahead and sort of get started in earnest here. I think I'm going to start with the T square. Let's start with this. What's activated this weekend is use nice soft colors for a hard aspect. What's activated this weekend, we always have it involving Chiron and Jupiter. As I said, we've been working with this healing, but tense and sort of aggravating aspect for a few weeks. I'll get into it more. And this weekend we have it involving Venus. So Venus and Chiron are opposed one another, and they are both forming a square to Jupiter, which is exalted in Cancer. My hope is that if you're studying astrology, that following along with these charts is helpful for you. And if you just like hearing about the astrology, my hope is that these reports work for you as well. That's always my intention, that it work for everyone wherever you are with your study of astrology. Also, I just want to say that I am recording this live here on Halloween morning. Happy Halloween. If you are watching this live, please feel free to leave any questions in the chat. I will get to them at the end of this report, and we'll have a little time in the chat. And if you're watching this later and you have a question, feel free to leave it here as well, and I will read it and reply either in the comments or in the next report. Okay, excuse me for a minute. My throat. Excuse the coughing, such bad live form behavior. Okay, we have our T square here up on the chart. And here's the thing. Yes, it's a T square. That suggests sort of an aggravating pattern, a tense aspect. We have an opposition, which can often show up as sort of a tangible opposition of some kind in our world. Often when we have an opposition, it's two people sort of facing off against each other in some way. Usually both people feel like the other one is standing in their way in some sort of way. It can be sort of a direct confrontation or obstacle. And then squares are sort of uncomfortable too. I always think of squares as sort of like pushing things to the surface, the way that this edge does. You know, it kind of takes what needs to be looked at and just edges it up to the surface for us. It's it's about squaring off against something, feeling some sort of pressure. However, right, and we have 2 of those squares and 1 opposition. So generally a T-square we look at as, ooh, this is quite uncomfortable. I mean, yes and no. Mostly, I don't feel that that is the case with this particular T-square for a couple of different reasons. First of all, Chiron is amazing at taking what is difficult and healing it and using our wounds as wisdom, taking what seems like a challenge and actually turning it into a benefit for self and for others, extracting, the learning from experiences, using your own past to help others to heal and help others along and connect. And also, I love the way in which the signature of Chiron is like, it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to be completely healed. You could just be doing better and have some good ideas. It's sort of low pressure, low stakes where difficulties are concerned. But in terms of hard things, Chiron being involved is a positive signature because it suggests that we're handling it in this mature way. From the beginning, I felt that this transit, that this T-square it is working with something difficult, but it's healing it. It's like taking a look at something from the past and seeing it differently, or facing some difficult situation in your life, but handling it differently, moving through it differently than you used to. Jupiter is also involved, not just Chiron, but Jupiter. Jupiter is a planet where they say whenever Jupiter is involved in a transit, it makes it positive. It's a benefic, and also Venus is involved this weekend, which is the other benefic. So yeah, we have a T-square, but it involves Jupiter and Venus and Chiron. So I don't think that it is difficult. I think that it's positive. I think that there's expansion here. It's such a healing signature for relationships. This has been going on for weeks. I mentioned it in my October reports. If you want to see where this is falling in your chart, watch the October reports, best viewed by rising sign. But I'm going to definitely talk about it today, but just if you want to know exactly where it's falling in your chart. Although by now you might know because we've been working with this for a few weeks. So what's going on in your life that has this healing signature to it? This has been significant. Here are a few different things that I was thinking it could involve. I've already sort of started to get into this, but looking at my notes, I have a couple other things down. And this is important to mention that I didn't before. Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. This is such a protective, nurturing signature. And there's something about the astrology of this T-square and really this time period in general, because as you can see, Venus is also making the configuration with this grand water trine. So Jupiter's kind of igniting this whole thing. And it's sort of a focal point, a point of focus for the chart right now. And there's nothing more positive in this chart than Jupiter in Cancer. And there are a few things in astrology more positive than Jupiter in Cancer, because this is our major benefic. It's exalted in Cancer. So we may be working with, to some extent, through both of these signatures, the power of nurturing, the power of care, really seeing its potential. And, I just don't know if it's in the typical way. I don't think that this is playing out for everyone in terms of, when I give a lot to someone else, it really helps them. I think in some ways that can be the case, but I think that we're also finding a balance between caring for ourselves and caring for others, and seeing the way in which balancing our needs, making sure to care for our own needs allows us to have that much more to give to others. So that's something. I think that Jupiter is giving us an expansive perspective. You know, Jupiter kind of widens the view, and that brings context to our understanding of some situation. I think that maybe there's been a situation where you brought nurturing to it, to yourself and to others. Maybe it's something that's been going on for the while that you're approaching differently. Maybe it's something from the past that you're thinking over. This T-square suggests that there's a way in which we have a new perspective on the situation now, where our view is wider. We have a better understanding. We know better how to nurture ourselves and others. And from that place, we're able to take this difficult situation, this wound, and turn it into wisdom. Move from hurt to healed to healer. And again, but not perfectly. We're not perfect, and we're not fully healed, and we don't have all the answers. And this could be true in someone that you're seeing around you as well, who's trying to help you maybe, or maybe who you're in conflict with. Recognize these tendencies, not just in yourself this weekend, but maybe in others, to be handling a situation a little bit differently, to balance giving to self and giving to others. How is nurturing self and others coming to taking on moving to a new level, going to a different side of the story? How are we moving from a hurt to healed to healer? And I do think that the imperfection, the acceptance, is kind of part of the healing. It's like, yeah, and I don't have all the answers, and it's not all perfect, but I'm a little bit better about this. I see it a little bit differently. It's a little bit easier to deal with. So some sort of healing signature is activated. But we really do want to add into this as well, this grand water trine that we are going to be working with. This really just opened up a few days ago, and we're going to be working with this through December. And it is beautiful astrology. Let's circle Jupiter again. Oops, I don't like that one. Saturn. Okay. So again, I love the way in which Jupiter, exalted in Cancer, is a major part of both of these configurations. It's the connecting point here with the grand water trine. So the interesting thing about this trine pattern is that it's going to be going on throughout Scorpio season. It began in late October and it goes through into December. So it's also interesting, I think, that it came right after we had a lot of grand air trines during Libra season. So the fact that, again, very, very, very tough weekend to talk about in isolation. We have to kind of talk about these bigger signatures that are going on right now because they're ongoing. It's not just a moment in time that we have this grand water trine or this T-square. They're both unfolding for a while. And the fact that we just were getting through those grand air trines is significant too. It's like we had all these great ideas during Libra season, and now, you know, it was all about the mind, and now we're sort of processing it emotionally during Scorpio season. Scorpio goes a lot deeper. You know, Libra is sort of the ideas. It's more surface in a way, not in a bad way, but you know, there's sort of a focus on harmony and balance and beauty. And Scorpio season wants depth and like genuine closeness and transformation, right? So it's sort of a shift from those two dynamics as well. And I think that there was a real intelligence to all these grand air trines. Our ideas were coming together very, very well. Communication, it was a mental, positive signature. And then now with the water trines, it's an emotional, positive signature, almost like intelligence and now emotional intelligence. So during this Scorpio season, my goodness, excuse me. So during the Scorpio season, we're working with these grand water trines, and they're grand water trines right after grand air trines, which totally matters. So there's also some real healing potential to a grand water trine, just like there is to this T-square signature. There's sort of an abundance of emotion, intuition, perceptiveness is incredibly high with a grand water trine. You might be able to really just understand what others are really thinking or feeling. You just can be very, very good at reading people. You also might be more tapped in than usual to your intuition in terms of yourself, being able to really recognize, yes, that feels right to me. No, that doesn't feel right to me. Getting those emotional signals where you get that little lift emotionally, or that sort of cozy feeling of safety concerning a place, an idea, a person, and you move toward those ideas. Or you can get a little negative feeling that you use as a signal to move away. So there's an incredibility. There's an incredible ability to understand people here with this grand water trine, to understand yourself and to understand others, to really empathize, to read people, to care for people. We're good at handling emotions with a grand water trine, and I think this is a really important piece. Um, we're good at handling our emotions. We can handle difficult things. The way that this is lining up with this T square is so cool in that it's the perfect time because we're extra strong emotionally right now. So, of course, if an old wound is coming up, we're able to turn that into wisdom. We're able to see it differently because we have this emotional strength that gives us the potential to handle our emotions well, even old emotions that have been around for a while. We might be able to take them on, to grapple with them in a way that we usually can't. There's also just more of an abundance of positive emotions with a grand water trine. It's also sort of creative, but in a watery way, not in an intellectual way, in an emotional way. I always think about the way in which water flows into any available space, right? It creates in this strong, powerful way. Water is one of the most powerful forces. And we see that even in terms of, the terrible hurricane that we're seeing right now. And I've seen that come up as well when there's other water sign signatures that are highly activated. It's just sort of this abundance of water, and you see the destructive power of water. Even if you've just ever had any flood damage or a leak somewhere, just amazing the way a tiny drip of water can actually be one of the most powerful things there is, because it will keep flowing downhill very, very persistently forever. And so there's a way in which, when there's an abundance of water signs, we can sort of be that way. We can take on, it's part of where the understanding comes from of others. We can sort of take on the shape of the container that we're put in. So I always think of it as like, if you put abundant water in a vase, it is the shape of the vase. If you put it in a bucket, it's the shape of a bucket. A glass, it's the shape of a glass. And that's how water energy is with things. It just sort of molds to fit the situation that it's in, to talk to the person that you're talking to be in the environment that you're in, and just to really, really connect, to sort of take on that shape of where you are. Sometimes a strong Pisces energy in a chart can be sort of difficult this way. I think especially Pisces rising can tend to show up very differently depending on who they're with. You know, amazing at connecting with other people, but sometimes, uh, yeah, almost to a point that they have to work on knowing who they really are apart from that. But just to say, there can be difficult, and I'm obviously getting into that a little bit here without really meaning to. There can be difficult sides of an abundance of water energy, whether it's a hurricane or just overwhelmed by emotions. Um, the way in which our emotional lives are there persistently working on us, whether we're conscious of them or not. But there is this strength to a grand water trine that makes us good at handling things, especially emotions, even difficult ones, even old ones. So I think whatever we're encountering now, we're bringing a certain strength to it. And we can be creative in a water way, which is the note that sent me on this tangent. There's like a flexibility. There's a flexible potential here. Where it helps to be open. Ah, there's a phrase that helps me. That's kind of the phrase I was looking for. It's not written down. It just popped into my head. This is the kind of a transit where it really does help to be a little open, to be a little malleable, because things are different. They're changing quickly. Things are coming up that are a little bit maybe unexpected. And that also relates to this opposition with Uranus, that Mercury and Mars are dancing around as they cross over into Sagittarius, which I'm not even putting on this chart, but it is a part of this weekend as well. A little surprise energy. You know what? Let's put it on the chart because it's there and it's real. We have Mars and Mercury here basically together. I'm actually going to circle Mercury, which is kind of hiding behind this line, but Mercury has just entered Sagittarius and coming into this opposition with Uranus. And Mercury will do that 3 times because Mercury is going to go retrograde. So it's going to come back over this point retrograde, and then it's going to go over it direct. So there's like surprises going on right now at the same time as all of this is going on. There's also this sudden surprises, new information opening up that we need to grapple with. So it helps to be flexible, to be malleable, to be strong emotionally, and to find new healing ways of working through things. So it's very interesting to look at these two aspects together. I've been talking about them for a while. I also think it is important to note this Mars-Mercury conjunction, basically. Mars and Mercury will sort of be together in the sky for a while. They've been moving together because of the Mercury retrograde. We have Mercury now in Sagittarius. This is, an important energy maybe to mention in and of itself, just Mercury in Sagittarius, opposing Venus. When Mercury is in Sag, we can have an abundance of words. So not only do we have an abundance of emotions right now, but we might have a lot to say too. It's very busy mentally. I always think it's kind of interesting that Mercury is debilitated in Sagittarius. It's in its fall. Mercury is exalted Mercury rules Gemini. And so in Sagittarius, Mercury is not happy. It's as far away from home as can be. But I just mean energetically, it always feels weird to me because Mercury is such a fast energy, and Sagittarius is a very fast energy, but it's like it's too much for Mercury. Mercury gets overwhelmed in Sagittarius. And I just always think that's kind of funny because, Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. You would kind of think that Mercury would like to do Jupiter things. When Mercury is in Sagittarius, Mercury is doing Jupiter things. It's expanding. Um it's exploring, it's learning, it's growing, it's seeking truth. But it's overwhelming for Mercury. This is Mercury in Sagittarius can be a busy mind, a lot of words, um, a lot of ideas, very busy mental processes, and very, very interested in seeking and understanding the truth. Gemini, on the other hand, isn't as interested in that across the way where Mercury's more at home. That Mercury wants to just keep moving and talking and having ideas and being curious, not as concerned with like getting to the deep nature of things the way that Sagittarius is. So this Mercury retrograde story will open up, and Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius can, go even a little further with this. We can exaggerate. This unfolds as we get into November, but just as a bit of a preview, because the story is beginning now as Mercury moves into Sagittarius and opposes Uranus for the first time. Then Mercury goes retrograde in November, and the talkativeness can kind of turn into exaggerations and embellishments. We can have more interruptions with Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius, and just even busier mental processes. The fact that it will cross by Uranus a few more times means even more surprises as a part of this retrograde. And the fact that Mercury is traveling with Mars at this time is significant too. Towards the middle of November, Mercury will be retrograde with Mars in Sagittarius, and that's just very fiery. Fiery words, fiery actions, but it's very, very productive too. It's determined. It's getting something off the ground, and that story is sort of opening up now because this conjunction with Mercury and Mars is beginning to break. Mercury will stay in Sagittarius, Mars will meet up, Mercury will retrograde. As we get into later November, Mercury will go back into Scorpio, and there'll be some real depth there. This is one of those weekends where it's so hard to know where to start and stop when talking about the astrology, because we really are looking at some bigger stories where it's a moment in time. But it's an important moment in time. We're handling things differently this weekend. We're caring for ourselves and others. We have new skills that we're using to apply to old problems, to heal them, to heal the relationships, to heal the memories. This productive, truth-seeking story is opening up with the Mars Mercury. I mean, Jupiter and Saturn in this trine is lovely. The grand water trine is lovely. We are intuitive. We are perceptive. We are highly capable emotionally. We have an abundance of positive emotions available to us. So there's a lot going on, and I think we can all feel this collectively and individually. So I think that might be about all I have, and I might be ready to take a quick look at the chat. It's always so hard for me to not look it over while I'm talking, but I think that it's better to wait because some people really like to stick around for the Q&A and others don't. And so I don't want to interrupt the main part of this podcast with that. So I'm going to go ahead and read over the chat now. I'm so glad to see everybody, and I hope that you've enjoyed this report. Okay, so I love to see everyone. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Levi, Hazel. Hello, Rachel. I just love everyone connecting and saying where they're from or what your primary triad is. Yeah, and not everyone who comes through here, especially we're on live, is into astrology, and that's just fine. Just let them come and go. Sometimes someone ends up here by mistake and they feel a need to say they don't believe in astrology before they leave. That's fine. It is just a tool, one of many, many tools in life that we can all use, and it's not for everybody, and that's perfectly fine. Um, I love everyone's little emojis. Good morning. And yeah, I don't think there are really any major questions today. I just appreciate you being here with me so much. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I'll be back on Monday to talk about next week. Next week looks really interesting. Pisces November horoscope, the last one, will go up this weekend. My apologies. Pisces are always so patient. It's a great weekend to look at October and November reports, being at the end of one month and the start of the other. And everything does flow together. It really does. So thank you so much for being here. Have an amazing Halloween weekend, everyone.